Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening. How are you doing, Dan?
I am doing great. Hello, friends.
Hello, friends. Welcome back from Florida, where you got to see a lot of the Masters a little bit, and it was pretty incredible the way it went out. Rory Mcllroy, the guy who thought would never win in all our picks so far in the last 2 years that we picked this golf, comes up and wins on the playoff hole against Justin Rose. So get your initial assessment here before I can get down to the actual, maybe some of the holes we can talk about.
Yeah, my initial assessment was just, probably one of the most memorable Masters that I've seen in my lifetime. I'm sure, anyone that's my age or younger could probably attest to the same. There's been a few Masters that rival it. Maybe Tiger's first one when he broke, he set the initial record for under par back in '97 when he won in his second year on the tour, and then maybe when Tiger won in 2019 after his first win in 10 years, coming back from multiple surgeries. But this one was definitely right up there. It's funny because I was, like I said, down in Florida, and right when Rory was up by about 4 strokes after hole number 12. That's when I jumped in the car for the 30-minute ride to the airport, thinking, I said to my wife, it's over. We can get in the car and let's just get to the airport now. And I put it on in the XM radio on the car ride there, and lo and behold, I started hearing at the gas station what was going on the drama, on 13 and 14, where Rory dumped it in the water on his third shot, and then gave up another shot on 14, and then next thing you know, he's down a stroke, and then tied, a 3-way tie, and just crazy drama. And we got to the airport, to return the car, and got inside watched it in my app, and then got to a little bar there to watch the final few holes, and with many other travelers, we were all just kind of amazed at how it played out. It was something else, and I'll give him credit. No matter if you like Rory or you don't, you kind of had to root for him and feel for him at the end. Like you kind of said, I'm not the biggest Rory fan out there for various reasons, but you had to kind of root for him at the end, the way he held it together in that playoff after collapsing, over the final 4 or 5 holes. And the way he, after Justin Rose hit that amazing approach shot in the playoff, and then Rory topped it with one of his own, and then made the 3-footer, which he's, as we know, he's not one to make many 3-footers when it counts his track record over the last few years at the U.S. Open, and even yesterday on 18 in regulation, he could have ended it. So just kind of felt like a Shakespearean tragedy, with the hero falling and then coming back. So that's kind of my impression. Let's hear a couple of your thoughts before you break it down with some holes.
Well, I'll start with the first one. I think he was up by 2 strokes going into the final round after moving day, and the coordination that a lot of people thought about Rory hit like a snag in the first 2 holes. He had like a double bogey 6, and then he had like a bogey in the second hole, and he was down 3 strokes right away. And I thought at that time that will he ever recover? But then he steadied himself, showed a lot of resiliency. And I think someone on X actually mentioned this. They said Rory hits 5 of the greatest shots you would ever see in a 30-minute span, and also the 5 of the dumbest shots you would ever see in like a bit. And I think that's what happened. Then he steadied himself. He had a huge birdie on the par 4 ninth. That was a very tough par 4 ninth. And then once he got a 14 under, everybody that I was actually texting and chatting with said, well, time for the coronation to start. He was up by 4. And then he had a bogey on the 11th. And then, of course, the par 5 13. I just couldn't believe that. That was something that I would do on the golf course. And for a golfer of his caliber, it was a straightforward wedge shot, 82 yards, pushed the shot bad, went into the tributary at the Race Creek, as they call it, as Jim Nance called it, and that resulted in a double bogey there. And Then another one, he followed a bogey again on 14 too. I think it seems that the whole four-shot cushion just evaporated just right away. And then came 15. And I can tell you that 15th hole, the shot he hit, the second shot, that's got to go down to one of the best shots that you would ever hit in a Masters. I mean, on the par 5 15, he pulled the drive to the left, and then he had a second shot, which was, I think it was 207, 208 yards, as Nance was calling it. He had his high hook, majestic 7-iron that bent around the pines and landed like about, what, 5, 6 feet from the pin. He missed the eagle there, but then made the birdie, took that one stroke lead. Then again, 2 strokes later, again on the par 4 17, he had another semi-blind approach from 196, and he stuck his 8-iron and just soared over the green and cleared the bunker by inches, literally by inches. That could have easily been in the bunker and rolled to like about 2 feet from the cup. And then came 18, as we all saw, had that putt to win the Masters, ties it up, goes to the final hole, or first goes to the playoff hole. And even there, the second approach shot that Justin Rose hit, he almost hit the pin. Um, and and even when his third birdie putt was barely off the cup, the right cup, and then McIlroy hit this unbelievable shot from, I think it was like what, 130 plus, right? I think
Roughly. Yeah.
yeah, 126. I think it was
Yeah.
126, 130 or so, 126, and then stuck it to like 3 feet from the cup. And you're right. I mean, the U.S. Open last year? Was it Pinehurst was the same thing, and then even in L.A. he had I think it was the 18th hole where he had like a 3 feet putt, went from a 3-shot lead to a 2-shot lead, and then lost it on the last day, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, right, whether you root him for or not, I think for some reason, I've never a rigged Rory fan, and every time we pick the golf Masters or British Open, we always say it like it's been like what, 3,000 days since he won it, and then we never pick him. And a few of our Hilton Head friends, both Keppel and Tony, called Rory for the green jacket, and then both of them got it. I had to buy them a beer, but and let's talk about the others, right? You had Bryson, who was like pretty much he tied. No, he was actually up on Rory by the second hole,
Yeah.
and he fell apart. Um, your thoughts on Bryson?
Yeah, I think Bryson, I mean, he watching him over the last couple of rounds, like I didn't see a whole lot of him the first few rounds, but on Saturday when he had a fairly good round, I thought he was, he made some amazing long putts that day. What I noticed was he was getting a lot of scrambling, a lot of up and downs. So he was struggling. I kind of noticed, I thought, with his iron, with his distance control, as they were saying all day. And I think once again he struggled on Sunday with just those irons and the distance control, either coming up a little short or a little long, and then having to scramble. He had that costly miss on number 11 where he put it in the water, double bogey. Then he had another costly miss on 15 where he was just on when he went for it on the par 5 where Rory hit the majestic 7-iron into the I think it was a 7-iron into the in the shot you described, that Bryson had went just before him and dumped it into the creek.
Three.
Oh, he was just off by maybe 3 or 4 yards, but that's everything on that hole. So he just struggled. It seemed like with his irons, with the distance control. His putter was a little off on Sunday as well. A lot of the putts that dropped for him on Saturday were not dropping on Sunday, and he just too many bad iron shots that kind of doomed him. And then Scheffler, who was my pick, he was a solid fourth place. I think he finished at 8 under, but he missed a ton of. Saturday he just looked off. First of all, he just seemed like he was off all day with his irons on Saturday. Yesterday he much better, but once again a lot of he made some nice long putts to kind of make birdies or save pars, but he had several, like I would say 5 to 8 footers that just were either lipping out or just not quite falling for him. So that kind of did him in. He was only a couple shots back. And then the other guy we got to talk about is your guy over the last few years, Ludwig. Yes, he was
Ludwig.
I kind of said, hey, you never know. He's right there, -7, -8. If Rory somehow comes back to the field when he was struggling on those first few holes, I said, Oberg's right there. And sure enough, we had Oberg, Rory, and Rose all
Yeah,
tied.
he was there all. He was tied for the lead after
Yeah,
McElroy made all
he was
these
right there
mistakes,
on
and then yeah,
15. Then I think he parred 16 Oberg after birdieing 15. Then he had a bad three putt on 17 Oberg, and then he fell apart on
for
18. Right, he
bogey.
had a triple or a quadruple, so he was four over the last two holes. That did him in, unfortunately. Cost him a lot of money, as you said. Those
Five
two holes.
hundred. It's almost like $500,000. But I
Yeah,
think the guy who won, who was the runner-up at the Masters last year, I definitely thought when they were all tied for the lead, Aberg would somehow sneak in because Rory was kind of falling apart. Bryson, I mean, you can't, he had like a lot of missed putts, and then, like you said, he found the water twice, and that's never going to win you the Masters. And then he caught it a 3 over 75. Bryson actually, he was like 10 under going into day four, and then uh, poor Ludwig. I mean, stumbles. I think it was something about this course. I mean, something that gets the best like falter um, to it, especially in the last 3 4 holes. I mean, that's probably the one that you need a lot of resiliency. Even McElroy, right? He had the Masters in his hand. I mean, missed the putt on the 18th, and if he had lost that in the playoff, and poor Justin Rose, I think this was his second loss in the Masters, right? In the playoff, like lost to
yep, you're
Sergio
right.
Garcia too.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
last lap. I
So
forgot.
again, like you said, Scheffler had the same thing. Good for Patrick Reed. Somehow snuck in, came in third.
Right.
Not a big fan of him, but he got there. Got third place and got a few $1 million there. With Rory actually winning this '89 Masters, he now only becomes the sixth player in the history, and this was something we talked about the trivia, joining Gene Sarazen, Ben Hogan, Gary Player, Jack, and Tiger
Right.
in the most golf exclusive fraternity, which is like a Grand Slam. And I think that he wanted it. The emotion was amazing. Watching it live, the best thing I liked about was Nance's call. I think Nance spoke for probably a 40 seconds and a 7 minute after Rory won, and that's just you got to give it to Nance for just letting the player enjoy the moment and having like his players, the European players like
Yeah.
Shane Lowry and also Tommy Fleetwood. And there was also another touching moment with Justin Rose's wife. It was a great moment. And I think that's what it is, right? I mean, this is why you call it sports, right? I think the raw emotion displayed by Rory was just phenomenal. Like I said, never been a great fan of him, but I think as years went by, I think he was a sentimental favorite. And there was a picture that someone took, and obviously these are the photographers who take it, and they're the only ones allowed with the camera, where they said the people and Masters were actually enjoying instead of taking their phones and snapping pictures. So this, the whole thing about the tradition, like no other, was maintained.
Yeah.
Um, and Rory won what $4.2 million, but more than the money, I think it was you know the boy from Northern Ireland coming in winning all majors,
The
right?
career slam. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and like you said, I think I just briefly mentioned like when you were breaking down the holes. The funny thing was like it's not like I kind of liken Rory almost to Phil in some ways. How we've seen Phil come so close in some of the majors over the years, several close calls at the U.S. Open over the years. That's the one major Phil hasn't won, and we kind of questioned some of Phil's decisions down the stretch. I remember at the I think U.S. Open many years ago, Phil could have just played it safe on the 18th hole and taken like a 3-wood out, but he went for driver and put it into the concession areas many years ago. And Roy, I thought, played it so smart on 13. The way his decision was to lay up the whole way, a 4-stroke lead, right?
Yeah.
Put it to third shot, 80 yards out. Hit his iron, so he left himself 85 yards in. All he had to do was put it center of the green. And I think the analysis I heard on what happened there was, I mean, as far as what was going through his head was, he's afraid on those short wedges for some reason. That's not his strength, and he's afraid of just kind of closing the club face a little bit and hooking the ball and pulling it. So I don't know why he would still then kind of cut it so close and go more at the flag, but instead of just into the center of the green. But regardless, he played it so smart, but just didn't execute. And then that's once again on 18. He had a great drive on the last hole, the 72nd hole. He was 125 out. You just don't see players of his caliber too often then miss a shot like he put it into the bunker and just blocked it. But that's just the nerves, I guess. It wasn't a bad decision. Like I said, we've seen Phil make some questionable decisions earlier in his career. Rory at that played it smart. Just the nerves. Just it just shows you the moment. Still, even the number 2 player in the world, maybe number 1 now, what it does to you, pressure and the hugeness of the moment, just being too much for him. But he came through, like we said in the playoff, hit a huge drive and second shot and made the putt. So kudos to Rory, congrats, and we'll see what happens now at Quail Hollow at the PGA coming up in May.
That's true. And I think Justin Rose, I mean, kudos to him. I mean, he was leading the Masters for 2 days, fell apart on the third day, roared back on the fourth day, and almost won it. I feel for Justin, such a good guy.
Yeah.
And they're pretty close. Very good moment again at the end of the after he hit a very class act by Justin to kind of stay back a little bit and then let Rory kind of enjoy the moment as well. He had a great shot on the playoff hole. The approach shot was put a lot of pressure on Rory. I mean, especially after what Rory did on the second shot on the 18. I was kind of a little worried for Rory in the playoff when Rose hit this amazing shot, and he could have easily made the birdie. I mean, he didn't miss the birdie by much. So he almost hit the flag stick. But, give credit to, Justin for pushing Rory in the playoff hole. And then Rory made that putt. I mean, he made this unbelievable shot, his approach shot on 18, gave himself the 3 feet to wrap it up. And I think this must have been the hardest 3 foot he has ever made in his life. But to your point about how, like the 13th hole and the 18th hole in the regular time where Rory, like you said, the wedge shots that he wasn't not confident. And to your point about even for a golfer of the caliber of Rory, making a mistake like that is incredible to see. I mean, I guarantee you, like one of the amateur golfers from 89 yards puts it on the green.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what happened. I mean, he gets the Masters, gets that green jacket. Good moment in the Butler cabin. Scotty Scheffler. I was actually listening to the PGA radio today, and a couple of callers were calling in and saying, "Well, Scotty did not make any emotion." And then I think the guy who was running the shows basically said, "Wait a minute, he doesn't want to steal like Rory's glory. He just, he didn't want to smile. I think he did what he was supposed to do. Just let Rory get the glory and enjoy the Masters for his life." All in all, it's a great Masters. I think it was probably one of the best Masters. I think from a standpoint of viewership, I think it was the highest in the last 7 years. So,
I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, it was incredible drama, and this is what it's supposed to be. I mean, I think everyone was glued to it. I was listening to the PGA radio driving into work and coming back, and you could just, it was they kind of went in depth. I'm actually looking forward to that Five Clubs interview. I think that Wallace had with Rory. I think I've not had a chance to listen to it yet. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it.
Not, Gary Williams or Gary
Williams.
Yeah, Gary Williams. Yeah. No, I have not heard that one yet. I'll put this week. There'll be plenty of podcasts to catch up on and listen to, I'm sure, with Rory interviews from post game wrap up and what have you. But yeah, so yeah, well, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is what it is, right? We got Rory to when I think Mad Dog was also had like Rich Lerner at 5 o'clock hour.
Yes.
Talking this one too. So thanks, Dan, again. I mean, I think we are waiting for what next? What is next?
Yeah, PGA Championship. Yeah.
PGA Championship, right? So there you go. So we'll come back and do the PGA. Let's see if Rory can go back to back, or Scotty makes a comeback again. So we'll see how this goes. So with that, we wrap up the Masters. I think I had fun doing the preview, some of the daily recaps, and then the final recap with Dr. Dan. So we'll be back with more golf and tennis soon. So we'll leave Dan to go and study up on his surgery. So have a good night, Dan. Just wait until I hit the stop button here. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for listening. Primo and Dan will be back soon.